Good morning, my name is Mattie Foxe. I'm from Ballinallee in County Longford. And I don't have much connection to Ballymahan, I suppose, except maybe in football. Anyway, is the pen mightier than the sword is a comment and a debate that has taken place for probably as long as anyone remembers. And myself, I don't think that it is mightier than the sword. It's a debate, and it's open to question, and it's open to interpretation maybe. But the pen is a wonderful instrument, and the writing of a writer nowadays, I suppose, has more depth and impression about it. And because of the mass media and all that stuff, it has changed enormously. There was a time, I don't think, when the pen meant as much as it was suggested it would mean. This festival is taking place in 2016, 100 years from 1916, and it's a very fitting theme that the festival has chosen. Back in 1916 and 1904, 5, 6, 7, Pádraig Pearse was writing extraordinary stuff, very, very extraordinary stuff. And one could say that it hadn't much effect, because for all his great writing and all his integrity and mental process, it never made any difference, because the English, the oppressor, occupied the land. And just as everywhere they went at the time, they weren't inclined to move much, and had no notion of moving, and wouldn't have moved probably, except they brought the sword into play. And Pádraig Pearse had an extraordinary mind. I don't know if any of you have read him. He had a book called The Murder Machine, which is an extraordinary book. And if you sat and read it now, it's something you should read, by the way. It's not very long, but it's a compelling read. And it's The Murder Machine is it's a commentary on the basis upon which the English infiltrated Ireland and caused them to be so busy that they didn't have time to live. They got to the end of the day and they were tired. They wanted to go to bed. They didn't want to think about this or change that or change this. And inevitably, in 1916, the leaders of the rising, I suppose, weren't very popular in some quarters, and many people debated whether they should be allowed to assume power, but which they did. And it beggars belief, the psychological warfare that was engaged by England, not by the English people, generally speaking. English people are lovely people, but the people who ruled England at that time, they operated from, not dark rooms, but they operated from Parliament, which was a dark room because there was no media at that stage. So they were dark, and they were dark in more ways than one. Excuse me, I want to get water. I'll pick this up, pick it off. They were dark in more ways than one, and they caused the Irish people to feel oppressed, to feel trampled upon, and to feel regressive and stay back. I mean, they were helped, by the way, ironically, by the Catholic Church. With whatever they wanted to do, that was it. Somebody said to me this morning, you know, the Catholic Church at one stage, if you said take down this building, it'd come down. End of story, it would come down. And that was it. You know, the development of all that would give me the feeling, very, very strongly, I feel this very strongly, that the pen is not mightier than the sword because it doesn't do anything and doesn't cause anything to be done, because nobody will stand up and say what they want to say or what they should say, perhaps. They don't want to say anything nowadays because they're too focused on tomorrow's headline and the review of this thing and the review of that thing and whether I'll get a favourable comment in the paper or whether I won't get a favourable comment. The Irish Times is a great paper and there's great writers, and they do mean something and they do wield enormous power. But it's a power that, to some extent at least, not so much in the past, but nowadays, yes, it has a power. But the pen has never progressed to the point where it is absolute power. It is not absolute power. No doubt about that. In my mind, it's debatable, and debates carry on about it all the time. You know, there was a General William Westmoreland. He was in the US Army. He was in Vietnam. He fought World War I and World War II, and he was put in charge by one of the presidents. I think it was, anyway, it doesn't matter. General Westmoreland said that the military don't start wars. Politicians start wars. Politicians. But they don't wage them. They start them maybe, but they don't wage them. And they have to give the mandate to somebody. And back in 1916, there was nobody to give the mandate because the entire Parliament was infiltrated by English voices. And that was it. And they took the mandate and they made a move and they brought an extraordinary happening to Ireland. And over a period of time, Ireland rose up, mostly through the loss of several lives. But it was very, 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 I would say, justified, but hard to contemplate. We don't contemplate anything like that nowadays. And in recent times, there have been disturbances in the north. You know, the disturbance remains as long as the English remain in Ireland. I won't say that they should get out or anything like that. I'm just saying a fact. The disturbance remains as long as England remains in the land. And that has taken place in every place in the world where England were in charge. Canada, India, Australia, everywhere. Unrest, unrest, unrest. And eventually they made a move and they didn't take it over maybe completely, but they found a way to settle the thing. And without that happening, the pen would mean nothing. And I'll finish off by saying, by quoting for you a small... Pierce wrote a preface to his book, The Murder Machine, which encapsulates, I suppose, much of his thinking. And if you do read The Murder Machine, you will actually probably be astonished that the depth of thinking and the depth of feeling and the depth of emotion that Pierce had riding through every bone in his body at that time. And he said, as a preface to The Murder Machine, a French writer paid the English a very well-deserved compliment. He says that they never commit a useless crime. When they hire a man to assassinate an Irish patriot, when they blow a sepoy is the lowest form of Indian infantry. When they blow a sepoy out of a cannon, out of the mouth of a cannon, when they produce a famine in one of their dependencies, they always have an ulterior motive. They do not do it for the fun. Humorous as these crimes are, it is not the humour in them, but their utility that appeals to the English. Unlike Gilbert's Mikado, they would see nothing humorous in boiling oil. If they retained boiling oil in their penal code, they would retain it as they retained flogging in Egypt, strictly because it was found to be useful. And there's no doubt when he took an act to represent how he felt, he changed something. Thank you.